Games, all absolute bangers. And it all starts with the opening match here tonight. Deep Cross Gaming up against Impunity, and potentially from the very get-go, a level 1 bit of action. Hunter in trouble. He's forced to burn that flash. He was critically low, but he's lived for the meantime.
That's a pretty nice win for Impunity, because not only do they get the flash, they can actually take a lot of this control. And I think if you could somehow force a split map here, it would be really, really good. It would stop the Caitlyn Lux from being able to do anything. I feel like it might be a bit difficult. At the same time, though, you have double range. We'll see what they do. I feel like a split map might be a bit ambitious. And now the double of Halo Blades coming in from Impunity's ball line is going to be very strong in those early trades.
And certainly plays into the idea you mentioned before, right, about this bot lane matchup being on a knife's edge. One wrong trade, double Halo Blades, the punishment is unreal.
And it looks like Impunity will go for the split map. So I think this is actually a really big win. So when the map is split like this, it kind of means that whichever lane is on the side of the enemy's jungler can't really play aggressive, right? Here, DCG's bot lane, their only choice really is just to play to minimize, because at any point, Alex can just be behind them and will constantly have gank threat without Hana being able to bail them out. And then on the other side, I feel like the Nara GP lane, it's quite hard to actually punish, right? Like if you're if you're Hana, can you really look to dive? I'm not sure, it seems difficult, but level 1 trade already coming out.
Look at them, they're just walking right at you saying we actually lane from this side of the play. Alex is going to come on through here. Nature forced to flash away. One more auto would have done it, but the potion is ticking. Flash, body slam, can't find it. Two members once again ever so low, but the first blood eludes us.
Health bar is really, really low. Now pay attention to the sustain. Kriskata has the Doran's Blade, but doesn't have any more potions. On the side of Atlan, certainly does, and as well as being this low on your weak side, it's extremely dangerous here for DCG. Might just be an early recall coming out of Kriskata, and this is honestly really smart from from Impunity to have this split map situation and just completely neutralize the Caitlyn Lux.
Wave is going to crash. Orc's in a lot of trouble, being ditched by Kriskata. That's a Lux in so much trouble. Nature's going to get traded for it though, but denied to the tower.
Wow, Impunity, I mean, really coming out swinging from the get-go, and I really like how this game has actually started off for them. Hana might look for something mid instead. Mission, he's very far up.
He certainly is. Instant flash away, and the fight will not continue. But right off the get-go, you can see this really is that power struggle for the top 4. And it certainly isn't disappointing in these first few minutes. Alex, now in the area as well, might see the idea of a potential mid-jungle fight breakout. Laser goes across, Hunter in trouble. Hunter flashing, as is Nesty. Look at Alex, and that they do. There's the killer retaliation. The scoreboard now absolutely even. Explosion onto Hunter, and the laser secures.
Secures the blue buff as well. That has to feel good here for Mission. Nesty did manage to get a red, but the health regen early game is not super good. The blue buff, though, on a Victor so early is just going to be able to start putting this on cooldown. And one thing about Hana pathing topside so early does mean that Driver never really felt the impact of this split map, right? Whereas you have to feel Kriskata certainly not too happy about how the game started bot lane for him.
Yeah, certainly won't be. So many summoners burnt in the process, right? Flashes lost, heals used. Kills found, and it's the explosive tendency that can really set yourself up for what this game has in store for us. And I suppose really more than anything, it's DCG to have a point to prove, right? It was a bit of a stomp last time. Impunity was 17 kills to 5. It almost feels like Impunity are a bit like a Kingslayer. They come into these games, you're not too sure what to expect, but off to a flying start so far.
They certainly are. Now, interestingly, only 9 CS on Alex. He's actually getting bullied out of his jungle a little bit. This is kind of the interesting thing with having the Victor, right, is it gets a lot of priority normally, but it is quite weak in the skirmishes, so it's hard to actually kind of assist to anything like this. But Alex, even if he falls behind, I have to feel like, in a way, his job's already done, right? Like, if he just kind of plays evenly from this point, he's already set up his lanes for success with both a kill onto Mission and Atlan, the 2 big Impunity carries here. So great start from him. And this bot lane, you know, Caitlyn Lux, it's still dealing lots of damage to the tower, which is definitely what you want, but it feels like that early kill going over, it kind of sets them back in terms of the timeline and just a couple minutes. And that's pretty crucial for a champ like Caitlyn Lux that really, you know, needs to keep snowballing, needs to keep the pressure on. Really don't want to fall into the kind of mid-game trough, perhaps.
Yeah, you certainly don't. And I think it's always important to sort of note just how much impact you can find with the level 6 ultimate or Viva, the Lissandra, and the GP, right? Have such high impact. If that gets really rolling, then you certainly do start to snowball a little bit too out of control. A lot of pressure, as is to be expected, is put towards this bot lane. It started from the very get-go, but once again, both junglers are in the area. It's going to be Alex that starts things off, looking to try and find his target. It is still a flashless Caitlyn. The body slam onto Cascada, jumps away with the stun, net, and the damage and retaliation, as both AD carries are the ones to pick up the killing blow.
It's a 1-for-1. I feel like that might actually favor DCG. I think a kill on Caitlyn is really, really important at this point. And also Hana, off the back end of this, can look to perhaps re-gank bot. I mean, health bars are low. Not much mana here too, but I think that's going to be it. It's just going to path away. And I think it looks like it will be the poke Varus coming out most likely, which I think is good. This game, there isn't a whole lot of sustain again. Level 6 comes through from the Impunity solo laners. And now actually going down mid. No flash for Mission.
Yeah, certainly Mission could be in a bit of trouble right now as the damage goes across. Nesty had to self-cocoon, but is able to live. Still yet to find that kill in the mid lane to really break things open. Still neck and neck despite Orca being there.
Nature now, he's around mid again, trying to alleviate some of this pressure. Mission though, you know, he's very low now, will perhaps be forced into some sort of reset. At the same time, Nesty invested his ult into mid lane, which means there's unlikely to be any sort of roam out here. So it's kind of an interesting choice, right? We don't often see Nesty commit everything for the lane, and perhaps has no choice up against a man like Mission. Nature taking control of this bot river. Herald spawning in a minute, and no one's touched the dragon yet, which kind of makes me feel we will see play for this Herald. At the same time, though, whichever bot lane gets weak-sided here is going to really feel the pain from the other team just being able to pressure the dive.
It certainly is. I think both teams are agonizingly patient in terms of trying to get level 6 as quickly as they can. Really want to make sure that they have any kind of advantage over their opposition. Both junglers still in the area, sniffing out trouble. And with the Scuttle about to spawn at the same time, the battle for vision becomes that much more important as well. As DCG, as a free man, will get unlocked to be able to go into the river.
They're poking, and Alex is around. I feel like Mission still doesn't really want these fights. I think Nesty with the Ignite from the Spellbook is a lot stronger in any of these early skirmishes. At the same time, though, Impunity are the one that ends up picking the Scuttle. And I think if you're Impunity playing up against this Caitlyn Lux, I think you just try and match Hana. If Hana goes topside and looks for Herald, you can contest. If he tries to play for bot ganks, you... Oh, okay, the ult actually comes through. Cascada cleanses,
Instant
has
cleanse.
flash.
As you say, Alex wishes he was level 6 there, but a barrel on its own still does a fair chunk of damage. That's enough to force Cascada back, but ult traded for cleanse. Pressure found. But it won't be enough, seemingly, at this stage for them to go towards the dragon. They're going to try and crash this one in first and foremost. But pings continue towards the bot lane, looking for an isolated Lux one more time.
Hana is moving towards the Herald, but it looks like it's going to be a trade. Ulti is up.
It is indeed.
Ult committed.
Cannon Barrage, Orca's in a lot of trouble. Deja Vu is what I'm seeing this time at the second turret, not the first. But the outcome is all the same. Orca left alone and Orca dead.
So it looks like the trade will be Hana picking up the Herald. I'm not sure how useful the Herald actually is, though. I don't think you really have any winning lane at this point, right? All the plates are up, and bot lane, the lane you really needed to snowball, is starting to fall massively behind. It's kind of curious, I think, to go for the Herald, because I think it just weak-sides your bot lane so much at a time where they almost can't afford to be, right? If you're more ahead on the Caitlyn Lux, you're actually pretty good at surviving any sort of dive. But falling this far behind, you have to feel perhaps...
Oh my god, look at the triple collapse from every angle. They come towards you, so much CC and so much damage. The damage goes the way of Cascada's favor. He is the one to pick up the kill, but Mission gets one from the grave. He'll be stoked about that.
Trading 1-for-1 in the 1v4 is very good. This is one of those times where your team says play safe mid and you get ganked by 4 people. Doesn't feel the best, but hey, trading 1-for-1, you know, completely fine, especially with the other mid laner, right? Because that means that they're not the one that kind of receives a lot of gold off the back end of that. At the same time, though, I believe it was Cascada who picked up another kill. Oh my god, combo comes out from Alex.
Alex doesn't have turret aggro just yet because the wave still exists, and Orca with the binding, gonna walk away! Oh my god, that damage is unholy! And Cascada finds 2, and he got so many turret plates in the process as well. And yes, Nesty died, but this Caitlyn is unbelievably fed.
Cascada, despite being, you know, hard weak-sided and really feeling kind of the pain of that, has actually managed to snowball himself to 3-0. Still down CS, but definitely recovered a lot. Let's take a look at this 4-man collapse from DCG onto Mission. Poor Mission, man. He flashes very early, but there's just too much CC. I think the fact that this ends up being a 1-for-1 is honestly kind of a mistake from DCG. I think that can just be a 1-for-0. But I think perhaps more importantly, Cruzcada picks up the kill off the back end and really kind of gets himself back into this game.
Yeah, got turret plates, and certainly evens out that 20 CS deficit you mentioned before. And this really is a game where both AD carries are struggling to reign supreme. The perfect KDA with the only bounties to talk about. They've certainly painted a target on their back to say, come at me.
Dragon is started up here by Alex. Impunity, very strong on the bot side as well. Cruzcada, despite picking up the kills, hasn't completed his Mythic yet and is still down a pretty significant amount of CS compared to Atlan. So perhaps not quite as strong, at least until he completes the Mythic. But it's nice to kind of have at least some sort of win condition in this game. W's committed by mission, but it's not really going to connect. And now with Impunity's bot lane having both their ults up, they might try and look on Cruzcada while he doesn't have the flash. If you can pick up that bounty, definitely puts the game kind of back in your favor. And DCG, taking a look at the turret plays, despite falling behind in gold, actually did manage to pick up more turret plays than the enemy team, which does feel good always. I think bot lane is very volatile while Cruzcada doesn't have this flash.
Certainly is. Doesn't have, does actually have cleanser, excuse me, so a potential for Atlan to do what he did before to Chain of Corruption will just be traded out for that again. Alex was putting so much priority towards this bot lane, has managed to find Orca twice in succession, and is a big reason why that CS lead is as big as it is. Once again, Mission in trouble. He's the one on the receiving end of the damage and pressure from DCG's end, and they'll find it again, forcing him to now be 2-2.
2-2 from Mission. I mean, he's just kind of... That death, I think, is definitely a bit harder to forgive than the previous one. The previous one, 4 people mid, you're under your tower. Okay, it sucks, it happens. But this one, pushed up very far under the enemy tower, up against, a strong mid-jungle ganking combo without flash and without vision. So I think very greedy there from Mission, perhaps just trying to pressure that 1v1 matchup a bit too much, and has been punished pretty significantly for it. At the same time, though, Impunity using that bot prior to actually take away this red. And it will be a red traded on the other side by Hana. So it ends up even, all things considered. This bot tower is getting pretty low, though, and I think perhaps could drop here. DCG actually swapping lanes. Have Cruzcada coming mid. Nesty doing what he can to survive any kind of bot pressure here. And importantly, Mythic still not completed for Cruzcada. So actually must be behind at least a little bit of gold compared to Varus. Obviously has the tier 2 boots completed, whereas Atlan does not. Oh, arrow comes in.
Oh, very close, wasn't it? But the reaction was clean from Cruzcada, not to get caught out. Does still, as mentioned, have that cleanse available. So it shouldn't have been an easy picking for Mission, who did not have ult either to make light work of that one.
And this tower will be sieged down eventually, but I believe Impunity will play towards this bot tier 1 first. Plates will fall in the next 30 seconds, so if you want to pick up any last gold, now is your opportunity. Top lane, I feel like it's kind of been, fairly stable. No one's really trading too heavily on each other. Hanami, though, as per usual, builds up at least a small CS lead, and Driver could be in trouble now.
Certainly could be. Going to use the ultimate to try and trim the wave as the 3-man dive is about to break out, desperately going for the cleanse, or rather the flash away, having used the cask. Oh, it's not enough. Hana still is able to get the kill. The rest of his team were fleeing, but it does not matter. Their response will be good. Bot side, they'll pick up the first tower as a bit of retaliation.
First tower is picked up, but I wonder if they can keep this top tower here still or not. Because I think the top tower is, probably going to fall to Hanabi. So all things considered, it's an even tower trade, but then a kill traded up for DCG. So feeling pretty good about this. Mission, though, continues to scale, despite the fact that he's had these kind of unfortunate deaths. He's scaling into this game very nicely, and I think Victor does very well into this composition. The later the game goes,
that's
very,
close.
very low. Did he have vision of him? I'm not sure he did. Maybe he just, saw him recalling back there somewhere. This is quite a good read there from Nature. I think actually delaying Cruzcada's base there does potentially allow you for a little bit of damage on this mid lane tower.
It should do, shouldn't it? And I mean, Alex also with a bit of inclination there to try and be cheeky with a flash ult to kill Secure, but realizing maybe, just maybe, not worth it. Would certainly feel like a bit of an overextension, and this is much more of an easy acquisition instead. So damage towards the turret, peel away as a squad, pick up the second Herald as a result as well, and look to continue to drive that gold lead home in their favor.
Yeah, and talking about driving this home. I think once you get this Herald, you can really just put that down mid, perhaps break that tower open, and then keep stacking up these drags. While the gold is, extremely close, I think Impunity, they're strong enough that they should be able to get this next dragon, as well as being able to drop the Herald. If they can get that, they kind of start to catapult this game into more of their favor. Actually, the Luden's picked up by the Victor, which is kind of curious. Hanabi, he's pushing this wave in. Dragon only in 15 seconds. I think both teams want to contest, but currently DCG have the much better setup on it. Impunity, I think maybe you just drop Herald mid and try and regain control that way. Rival will clear out this wave. Yeah, Herald is dropped mid. I would love to see that. Okay, so it looks like the tower will die. And Impunity should be able to use the control gained here to regain the bot side vision. Mission actually spots out Nesty on the top side. And Cruscata, he's been chunked down reasonably, to half HP here before the fight starts. Arrow comes in as well. And I think there should be Impunities. At the same time, though, remember we were talking about how good DCG's team fight is, especially with that Lissandra Wukong Nar.
Yeah.
Nesty, he's still pushing top. Has the TP, though. This fight, it's so important.
This could certainly set the tone for this game, because right now it still is ever so close. And it's not really enough to try and create a divide between these two. Okay. DCG potentially had a window in there, but Impunity a little bit too clean, a little bit too strong to force them back. And now we'll give them a 2 Drake lead.
And the 2 Drake lead, I think, means a lot if you can get it so early into the game. Driver, though, potentially getting dive bot. Why is he holding the way off the tower? But smart TP here from Nesty.
What a TP, denying the minion from falling on down. The turret aggro will not switch across, and Driver's had his work cut out for him. I mean, both him and Mission have been really at the forefront of so much attention. And I guess now you put a big target on Atlas the Nature and say, you guys have been left to the wayside to do whatever you like. That CS lead you have, it has to carry us.
It does, and I think if they can carry the third drag, right, then you're really starting to put the pressure onto DCG of whether or not they can close out the game in time before some kind of soul win condition comes through. But they're doing a good job, right? They're starting to speed up the map. It's currently 2 towers to 2, but I think this mid lane tower will fall reasonably soon. Kind of depends if Alan can keep it alive.
And here's a new build we've seen, right? I mean, we've had so many variations of Varus, but this one is the Dustblade, right? So a little bit of extra ability haste, which is always quite nice. But we've seen Prowlers, we've seen Eclipse, we've seen, obviously, the Shield Bow, Rageblade on hit as well. This one feels very akin to, like, my ARAM games, but get to see it in a Summoner's Rift match.
Yeah, the Dustblade is a little curious. I'm actually not too sure why he decided for this game anyway, but I mean, as long as you have a lot of gold, it almost doesn't matter what you spend it on. Now, top tower, it's sort of being pressured, but I think kind of hard to really do anything into Nesty. I think both teams pretty content to kind of scale up from this position. But next dragon kind of will be a decider, I feel like. Third drag, if it goes over to Impunity, will then really be threatening that early soul win condition. At the same time, though, if DCG pick it up, they kind of allow themselves, a lot more chances to kind of play out these team fights. And really all they need is one big team fight win, right? I think when you've got like the Sandra Wukong and the Nar, it's so easy. If you can get one connection, one big team fight, a lot of the time you can just take a Baron straight after. And on mid-wave, Alan's being looked at. Hana, he's in the wings. Trying to sweep out some of this vision, perhaps looking towards Driver again, who unfortunately has been on the receiving end of a lot of these ganks, but still doing reasonably well for himself, all things considered.
Arrow connects. Cleanse was considered. It was a little bit late, and so much so that Atlan also hesitated, well, do I go for my ultimate or not? Nesty with a Frozen Claw to disengage away, but Alex is still game on despite a 2-level deficit, still keeps him in the area, and that's enough to provide Misha with the protection needed to try and take down that top tier 1. At the moment, though, just going to prox here and deny as much of these minions as possible as the GP ult comes through mid at the same time as well, protecting that. Flash, still the ult hits from the Lux, does not matter. Nesty now chasing for his dear life, hoping for a frozen reset. But that pressure alone is enough to make sure that that turret will fall on down.
It does indeed, and there's no trade on the top side. It actually wasn't the top tier 1 going over. So now, finally, DCG pull themselves to a turret lead. However, gold still remains in Impunity's favor. And take a look at the gold. Despite Cruscata being 3-0, it's actually still down a good 1,200 gold to Atlan, who's like, far and away the most fed member. in this game. Hanabi, you know, creeping up behind him, but doesn't quite scale as well. And Mission and Driver, I mean, I feel like the gold is really where you want it for Impunity. On the other side, it's really up to Hanabi to kind of bring DCG over the finish line in some of these team fights. And the next one you have to feel like will break out in just a minute. Will be the third drag spawning in a Mountain Soul as well. I think it's so, so good, especially against poke competitions. If you can pick it up, you know, it makes a lot of these kind of flat pen builders very difficult to play. Have to see who will get the control first. Mission hasn't yet completed its second item, so you're not going to be super strong in this team fight. Same for Criscata though, most likely building towards the IE. Obviously expensive pickup, does not quite have it yet. The top tower is traded. And Impunity with the slight gold lead, but currently losing control of this dragon area. Will they be able to retake it? It's difficult into such a heavy engage and pick composition.
Yeah, so difficult to try and face check into that comp, isn't it? With the amount of CC they have thrown your way, and one single kill can certainly balloon into a lot more, right? Between the traps and the face checking of Lissandra and so on and so forth. So let's see really how Impunity can try and regain control, even if they are interested. Because right now, not a single inch has been considered for them. Oh, Nesty flashing in just like that. Two-man route. Chain of Corruption comes across. It's going to spread like wildfire. Hanabi and Criscata in trouble. Forced to run away. The laser beam confirms as the shutdown goes the way of Driver. He certainly needed that. Now Hanabi, 1v3, forced to run away. Mega slowly ticking away. Flash on his head from GP, but a shutdown that Alex beautifully picks up. You saw a flank on the side angle as well as Hana tried to run down a kill. But Impunity, with no invitation into the Dragon, certainly now have it.
Ends up being a 3-for-1 there for Impunity. And while the shutdown goes over on Alan, you have to feel like it's worth it. I'm going to be able to pick up this third drag as well. And I'd really love to see a replay on that because I feel like the initial engage from Nesty as well as the follow-up by Hanabi was pretty good. But I'm not sure how Criscata died. You know, he was so strong. I'm not sure if he just died to Alex on the Gragas or what, but yeah, both the top laners put up big performance, and I feel like Impunity, they're really starting to pull ahead, right? The kills are even, but 3 drags to none. Feels pretty good. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Initial engage from Nesty, I feel like, is pretty positive. He gets in, deals a lot of damage, is able to disengage. Criscata nets and Gale forces forward and doesn't really get anything for it. Now, the TP comes in from Driver, and it looks like the Chain of Corruption spread to Criscata, who did not have Cleanse, did use it previously. And while Hanabi manages to take out Atlan, had already used his cooldowns, right? And Poke Varus, it's not a sustained DPS. It's much more cooldown-based instead. And so the real damage there comes from Driver and Mission past that point. And yeah, we're able to clean up the fight.
And that's really helped Driver so much in this game. He's really been on the receiving end of so much torture that now a GP with 2 items complete, with the crit cloak starting to stack on up. Yeah, just love to see it as a GP player. Responses though, Criscata actually not going to go for the IE, actually changing at the last second there for the Bloodthirster for the sustain into so much harass. You saw him just burn down eventually to the GP and the Victor on the tail end of that fight, having eluded so much of the pain. But with Nesty now completing the Zonias, with the Crown also for Lux, I mean, their damage has certainly skyrocketed. If a repeat were to happen, a lot easier for it to land.
I think the BT is interesting because it does mean that there's not really that poke win condition onto the ADC anymore. At the same time, though, I feel like picking up BT this sort of late in the game means that you're not going to have IE by that 4th dragon, right? And that's the fight that you're forced to contest. Now, Ghost actually comes through from Nesty. Nature, perhaps not watching his screen.
Nature completely mind-controlled. Still goes for the flash, but gets smited and gets bonked on their head. 2-man laser, just a tickle, but to get them vision as well. And it really did look like Nature was lost in the source there for a second, lining up the perfect ult, but dying for it.
It actually was, man. He wasn't even looking at his character. But it happens to the best. And now DCG, will they look to force anything extra off it, like the Baron? I'm not sure they can. The DPS is decent, but starting it up against this very fed Poke Varus, as well as the GPR, always feels like a tall order. But 2 more minutes, 45 seconds on this Dragon. I think that is DCG. They are forced to contest it again. But it's going to be difficult for them. I think Impunity, they've really scaled to the point they need, right? 2 items on the GP, 3 items now on the Varus, approaching 3 items on Mission's Victor as well. It's going to be tough for them. And Driver as well. I mean, I felt like he was kind of the receiver of a lot of this pressure, right? When the map was split. when he was constantly getting ganked, but has still found himself, a lot of impact in this game.
Yeah, the fact that both himself and Mission were at the receiving end of so much of that, but are now even or even ahead. I mean, look at Mission. The fact that he's had a gank, it felt like every 3 minutes, but up this amount, it just feels mind-blowing to me. And once again, just a hallmark of why he is the most valuable player in this league so far. So, an exciting prospect to see once those third items come across as to really what DCG still have left in the bank, because we were crediting just the ease of execution their comp had, a little bit more finesse for Impunity to work with, but they don't really seem to shy away from that high execution playstyle.
And we've seen a few teams in the PCS, I think, go for the high execution play styles, and it's been hit or miss, but I think Impunity, if they are contesting for that title spot, have to be able to play stuff that isn't just, your typical group up and press ults. Now, 1 minute 25 on this next drag. Now, consistently, DCG have had control of the area beforehand, but it's never really been enough, right? The engage has either been fumbled or just too much poke damage going over before the fight can begin. And I think now it might actually be Impunity who can pick up the control of this area first, have priority over both mid and bot. Although perhaps moving their vision towards topside first can always threaten the Baron, especially with the Gangplank and Victor DPS. Midwave will get deleted here. Yeah, and still kind of committing members towards the top side. Now, Mission is recalling. I wonder, does he pick up Void here? If he does, it'll be very big into Hanabi's... Yeah, okay, so he's got the Void, which I think is a really big spike. And Criscata, not quite at the IE. So it's going to be considerably weaker this fight. DCG, they need to win this fight in order to give themselves the time to hit their big item spike here. At the same time, though, Impunity... they're as spiked as they need, and they're ready to take this fight and perhaps take the win.
They certainly are. I mean, what a phenomenal purchase, right? Just to go from a Blasting Wand outright to now level 16 with the Void Staff 2 with 15 seconds now on that deciding soul point. Another Mountain Wand, by the way, seems to be PCS's absolute favorite. And, well, if you want to try and snowball a game ahead at a 27-minute mark, well, you need that durability, and it is certainly going to help you into a team fight comp that wants to come right at you, especially with Lissandra and Wukong. Let's see what they can do here. Grouped up in mid once again, rallying around for that vision, as DCG just hiding in the shadows, looking to try and find their angle.
Perhaps Impunity want to instead force DCG to leave their control and come towards this Baron. Impunity, they have plenty of turning tools. Blue Trinket is committed. And they've brought DCG outside of the river. Oh, barrel goes over to Criscata, a little bit of damage.
Oh, Yomu's is on, maybe looking for the angle, perhaps looking for the Chain of Corruption. Instant flash away, Chain of Corruption, rubber, Cannon Barrage onto 4, Orca's just gone, dead! Alex takes him out with the explosive cask fadeaway flash. And they wanted a pick, they'll find that pick. Now Mission in trouble, Cyclone, one man, oh, and a flash across the wall, but the Frozen Tomb still connects. And a shot that's found there by Hana. Can they get much more? Hanabi still has his ultimate, but he's forced in Mega to run away. And ST using the zone use, but in comes Alex. Fadeaway barrel, not able to find it, not able to get the kill. But are they secured enough? Because Hana's gone. They have no smite.
Wow.
And they want that Dragon Point, and they've got the numbers advantage.
I think they'll be able to pick it up here. Criscata goes down with actually both sums. He didn't flash a huge Gangplank barrel from Driver, and I think that'll ultimately turn the fight into Impunity's favor. Now picking up the soul at only 29 minutes into the game.
Huge, huge moment in this game right there where it felt like DCG were in a firm position to go for that Dragon, but just control. And sort of a calm approach from Impunity drew them out and found the picks they were after.
Let's take a look at the replay, though. So initial engage, I think, was pretty good from Impunity. You got the, I want to say it was a huge amount of Varus poke coming through, as well as the Gangplank goal. Pretty much take Orca out of the fight, very, very early, right? There's a lot of damage. Alex goes forward, ults him. I think this should just be an immediate win for Impunity, but Mission, I want to say, greedy pathing to walk through here, and despite having so much DPS, actually just dies kind of too early before it really matters. At the same time, though, Driver is still up and alive and has lots of DPS. And really nice there from Alex to cancel the engage from Hanabi. And pay attention to the back of this, especially watch Criscata, because I think still has the potential to carry this fight, but eats a massive barrel from Driver with flash available, and then is completely out of the fight. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And it only gets worse, right? Because Driver is working towards that collector now even stronger. Mountain Soul acquired, Baron on the lines. It's going to be a burger flip. It's running it down ever so low, and it will not be stolen away. Now they need to try and disengage away. How many casualties will be in this fight? So far, they've lost mission at the very beginning, just like at that Dragon, but the rest of the team are out, and DCG are just so low, even if they were fighting.
Giving over mission, I mean, it's honestly fine, right? You pick up the Baron. It does mean you perhaps can't pressure as much as you would like. And, you know, mission only sitting at 2-4-2, perhaps not the scoreline he was looking for in this game. But at the same time, the other members of Impunity really coming up big. And that's kind of like what we really want to see from Impunity, right? They're no longer just the, okay, if mission carries, we can win. And if not, we're just going to kind of fall over. But now, it's kind of the other way around. And what can they do with this Baron? Because with mission dead, although he does have TP, he's going to be quite late on the map. At the same time, though, you can get your Barons into these lanes pretty early and just TP mission in and have him kind of poke people off the towers. Have good control. I feel like this will probably end up coming down to an Elder fight. And potentially that's a flip that DCG can win. Now, what can you get done here, though? I feel like probably not inhibs, perhaps just tier 2 towers.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see them play for that. Right now they do have the TP advantage. Hunterbees is down, whilst the GP and Victor have theirs available. So you can see them playing towards those side lanes at the moment. Driver once again is the focus. Nothing new for him. Cleanses himself out A-OK. Stunned against the wall. Lux laser and shut down. So he's certainly not A-OK now. He's in a lot of trouble. But a response is good. Atlan finds the kill and takes down a massive shutdown onto the jungler in Hana. And his respawn time is now 40 seconds and upwards.
Yeah, so I think that I'm not even sure who this is better for, because I feel like a lot of the engage being gone allows Impunity to siege. At the same time, though, taking a lot of damage, Nesty might look for something. Hanami on the Nars still has a lot of presence in this game, and it's only one lane being sieged down. So DCG can commit all members to defending this. I think the tier 2 will fall, but I think that will be it. And in terms of a Baron power play, it's not as much as you'd expect. Hanami, he almost has the Mega, and he has a great flank. Is spotted out nice and early, though. Will end up running away. Don't think there'll be any chase onto him, although they might have the Hawk Shot. They might be able to find him.
Look at Hanami on the widest flank you'll ever see right now. I don't know if they've spotted him.
Yeah,
He's being very patient and is going to completely wrap behind them right now as the Ashe ult goes out. But that's a TP, that's a hard force, that's a big read from DCG so far. Hanami needs to hit Mega, commanding the respect of 3 people so far. 2-man ult, chains miss, fight continues. Mission in trouble again, the first casualty in this fight. They need their star mid laner, but it's once again up to the rest of Impunity to try and clutch it out for the team. Hana, so fragile, but Driver can't find the explosive barrel. He can't find it to get this kill on the boards. And I think we really are working towards that Elder Drake.
I think you're right. I feel like every time Mission dies, it kind of delays the game a little bit. But I'm not sure it ever actually puts it in DCG's favor, right? Every time it just ends up being killed, or a single kill. And as long as Mission can drop the ult before he dies, it still puts out pretty decent damage. So you can only imagine how much he would do if he was alive the entire team fight. But take a look at the replay. I mean, it's a really good start here from DCG. They have a massive flank from Hanabi. They also have a TP that I feel like does a really good job of breaking the team up, right? It's difficult for Impunity just to play that regular front-to-back team fight. When TPs come in like this, it ends up very split. Mission kind of has nowhere to go in this team fight. Tries to flash out, but there's just too much CC coming in onto him. Does end up getting taken out for free, but once again, you know, Driver kind of left unopposed and just putting out so much damage on this GP who's been farming up a storm pretty much the whole game long. And yeah, it ends up being a somewhat good trade for DCG, but it's not enough at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they just keep having these phenomenal fights where they're trading with one another, but it continues to favor Impunity despite them finding that mid lane on cooldown. Everything being chucked at him. And resources, you know, not sort of really being there to target much more than just that. 30 seconds and the massive Elder Drake is up for grabs. Impunity have had every single Dragon this game set their offer so far. And will they be able to get this one as well?
Nature's chunked out very low and will not have any lifesteal. If he bases now, will be late to this Dragon setup. At the same time, though, 2 ults used from DCG's bot lane. They are the ones with control, and DCG, despite being behind, if they can get this Elder, can potentially use it to pick up the Baron as well, and then could win off of that. So, despite the gold lead, I think it's actually very close here.
Certainly feels that way right now. Few important item purchases. Serpent's Fang there from Alan to remove these shields, or at least do more damage to them. Nature also having picked up the Mikhails for another cleanse. You certainly need that with the amount of CC we've seen in this game. Flashes down, Ashol commits. Cascada in trouble, where does he go? Gale forced to safety out of that cannon barrage. Nesty has to attend to the mid lane. The Dragon has now just spawned, but Impunity have found a weakness in their armor. Hunter is the focus. You remove the jungler, you win the game. It feels that simple. Explosive cast on his head, a cyclone for disengaged potential. It's not enough so far. Cascada fighting for his life as the laser goes out, but the damage just is not enough. And that Dragon has been engaged.
It has low health bars on the side of DCG. I'm liking Impunity's position. It's up to Nesty to try to salvage something off the back end, but I think he does a massive barrel.
Double kill with a kick. Hunter in the backline right now with a two-man shove against the wall, trying to keep them interested. He's found Nature, but he'll die for it. And yes, the Elder will reset, but Driver, my God, what a beautiful performance right there.
Yeah, Driver really putting in some work this game despite being the one pressured over and over. And Impunity, they're actually going to push down mid for the win, saying we don't even need the Elder. We can just take your base. And Hana, he doesn't have the ulti. Really, all he has is his body to try and defend this base. And I really don't think it's going to be enough.
Yeah, 15 seconds on Orca, 20 on Cascada, but 30 in seconds and counting for the rest of the team so far. Let's see how they look to try and play this one out. They've taken out one inhibitor. They're going to take out Hunter. That's a delayed ace. Now straight towards the Nexus. Impunity want the win. They want to wrap it up right here and right now. This would make them go 2-0 in their head-to-head and would bring them from 5th place back up to 3rd.
Wow, so I think statement game there from Impunity. And while I think Impunity did beat DCG in the previous time they faced, it was, DCG were looking pretty on form recently. But I mean, big week for Impunity, right? They take out CFO, they really push PSG to the limit, and then take out DCG. And what I feel like is they were pretty much always in control of this game, right? There was perhaps times where it looked a little shaky, but never really fell behind. I think, again, the fashion that I see Impunity win in, where it's other members of the team being able to pick up the slack if Mission isn't having the best game, it's really starting to cement them as, this is a team that we should consider in our top 3.
I agree, and I think just the fact that we said there was a lot of pressure riding on Atlan to perform, given that he was the only one that didn't receive any pressure at all, had a lot of protection more than anything from Alex's Gragas. It worked wonders in those early moments, right? Give them the CC, give them that insane amount of poke that once the GP hit that critical mass of 2 items and a lot of critical chance under his belt between the piercing arrows and those kegs, I mean, it was just lights out.